Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Jeffrey Epstein Show. I'm your host, Bobbycapucci, and this is Daily Drop number 61. All right, so we've been following the whole weird, crazy case of David Boies, Pottinger, and Kessler and the New York Times. So Kessler supposedly had the dirt on all kinds of people that were involved with Epstein. He brought it to these lawyers. These lawyers were trying to work both sides of the table with this situation, and it never amounted to much, right? Kessler never provided the goods to the lawyers or to the New York Times. So I said at the time that we were covering this that this guy definitely seems like some sort of disinformation agent to me, some sort of guy that's sent to muddy the waters. And lo and behold, in this Julie K. Brown article from the Miami Herald, she discusses how Alan Dershowitz hopes to use that mystery man to help him in the Epstein case, whatever that means. So I haven't read this article yet, but it was behind a paywall, and now it was ran by by Bakersfield.com, and so I'm going to share it with you. We're going to read it. We've had a pretty slow night in the Epstein department anyway in news, so this is a good follow-up to a story that we had previously. And like I always say, I like to do those follow-ups, right? I don't want to just leave something dangling. If there's more information to add, I'll do it in a follow-up like this. And it's a pretty pertinent part of the story. I think it's very important that we keep our eye on stuff like this. This Kessler guy, this John Mark Dugan character. You know, if you have the goods on somebody like Jeffrey Epstein or the people involved with him, pony it up. What are you waiting for? Are you waiting for somebody to pay you for it? If that's the case, I'm sure somebody would gladly give you some money for it. But why are you playing these spy games? Why are you acting like you're a spook or something like that? Either pony up the information you have and demand some dough, or just pony it up for the good of society and to get these sickos off of the street, especially get them out of our lives. Because let's be real, folks, all of these people that are named are in some way involved in our lives at some level, be it some very powerful businessman or some politician. They all have a lot of influence over our lives, maybe not on a personal level, but on a greater level, in the whole entire scheme of things. These are the people that are making things move. These are the people that are making things shake. And you have a guy like Dershowitz who will use any tool in his power to crush his opponents, legally speaking. He is a very shrewd lawyer. He is very powerful, and he is the kind of man that gets you a deal like he got Jeffrey Epstein. So we're going to dive into this article, and we're going to see what Julie K. Brown has uncovered. Remember, she is the one who blew this whole entire Epstein thing out of the water in the first place. I think it's important that we always follow whatever she has going on, that we read what she has going on, because she is a very important part of this case, and the work she has done is very, very, very crucial to these people ever being outed, and to us even being where we're at now. Nobody ever thought this case would even be where it is now. But look where we are. Prince Andrew is cooked. He's toast. Ghislaine Maxwell's on the run. Jean-Luc Brunel, he's who knows where he is. He's on the lam, right? All these people are on the lam, except for people like Bill Clinton. How is he escaping the scrutiny that Andrew gets? Well, that's for another time. We're going to dive into this article now, and the headline is, Alan Dershowitz hopes to use mystery man to help him in Epstein case. Before we do that, though, if you'd like to reach me, you can do that at Bobbycapucci.com. Bobbycapucci at protonmail.com, Bobbycapucci at protonmail.com. All right, so let's dive into the article. Renowned lawyer Alan Dershowitz has seized upon a mystery man featured in a recent New York Times story to help defend against allegations that he had sex with Virginia Roberts, one of sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein's underage victims, and to pursue a defamation case against the woman. All right, so of course, like I said, Dershowitz is a very shrewd man. He's going to latch onto this. He's going to try and use this to his favor, right? This guy's peddling disinformation. Was working with Boies, who is Virginia Roberts' lawyer. Obviously, this man is peddling disinformation, and I have to crush him. You can't believe anything he says. It's all lies. Right around there is where Dershowitz is at. At a hearing in New York on Monday, Dershowitz's attorney, Howard Cooper, said that the shadowy man featured in the Times story, who used the pseudonym Patrick Kessler, was part of a scheme that is strikingly similar to the extortion plot Dershowitz says is at the center of accusations Roberts has made, falsely, he says, against him. So Dershowitz he's coming out swinging, right? He says, look, these dudes they're scummy. There's no way that this is truth. This is the truth. They're lying. She's lying. That's the end of it. This is what Dershowitz is saying. Dershowitz alleges that Roberts, now 36, was pressured by her lawyer, David Boies, to publicly accuse Dershowitz of having sex with her in order to extort money from the other powerful men Roberts says she was directed by Epstein to have sex with when she was a minor. All right, so Dershowitz is a master at this, right? It's hard to follow what he's even doing if you're not really paying attention. He's shifting blame to everybody else. I didn't do it. It's about other people to extort money from other people. Don't bring me up in this. I have nothing to do with this. What are you, crazy? Monday's hearing was part of a high-stakes war between two of the country's most prominent lawyers. Dershowitz, the Harvard professor who defended Epstein, and Boies, best known for representing Al Gore before the U.S. Supreme Court during the 2000 presidential recount. Their feud, simmering for years, involves accusations of extortion, recordings, unethical conduct, and sex trafficking. All right, so this is why I'm skeptical about David Boies being involved in this case in the first place. Right? I just wish that Virginia Roberts would just jettison this guy, even though I know he's doing it pro bono, but this is the stuff that gives these people a defense, a leg to stand on, right? If Boies had nothing to do with this case, would Dershowitz be able to have this sort of defense? Of course not. He'd have to pivot and actually defend the allegations. Instead, what he's doing here is trying to shift everything and say, well, these people are unethical. This witness just wants money, and she's a liar, and that's the way they've pivoted. But really, Boies has no one to blame but himself. He's painted himself into this corner by not being an honest man, by being unethical in some of his dealings, right? Earlier, Dershowitz persuaded U.S. District Court Judge Loretta Preska to disqualify Boies from representing Roberts in her defamation suit against Dershowitz, after Dershowitz's lawyers said they intend to call Boies and members of his firm to testify in the case. Dershowitz has countersued Roberts, and Boies has filed a separate defamation suit against Dershowitz. Are you guys keeping up with all of this? This is battle of the lawsuits, right? This is America for you these days. Everybody just suing everybody no matter what. And what do they say? You could get a ham sandwich indicted in front of a grand jury. Isn't that the saying they love to say? Well then, why isn't Ghislaine Maxwell indicted, folks? Again, I know that's really not on this exact topic, but I think it is, right? Because let's be real. She's just as guilty. And if anyone should be, in court, it should be her, right? Roberts says that when she was 16, she was recruited by an Epstein associate. Here we go. I guess it was pertinent. Ghislaine Maxwell, while Roberts was working as a spa attendant at Mar-a-Lago, President Donald Trump's resort in Palm Beach. Epstein, a multimillionaire hedge fund manager and financier and pedophile, was accused in 2006 of running a sexual pyramid scheme involving underage girls, and Roberts claims she was directed by Epstein and Maxwell to have sex with Dershowitz, Prince Andrew, and a number of other prominent men. All right, so if we believe her about Prince Andrew, then we have to believe her about Alan Dershowitz, right? I have to tell you, I haven't seen anything that, Dershowitz is a very shrewd man, like I said. He's not going to get caught up in any kind of nonsense. He's not going to get caught up in a I gotcha moment on TV like Prince Andrew. There is no way that's ever going to occur. And if you're going to go after him, there needs to be rock solid evidence, because he'll wiggle his way out. This guy is as slippery as they come, and he will wiggle his way out. Look at the deal he got for his client in Epstein. Dershowitz, the prince, and others she has named in court papers have denied her allegations. Dershowitz, a friend and sometimes house guest of Epstein in addition to being his lawyer, emphatically denies he has ever met her. See, I don't buy it. See, it's hard for me to believe it. look, I don't have any evidence. This is my opinion. I always tell you guys that. But my gut feeling is that Dershowitz knows a lot more than he's saying. He's going with the same exact, denial of the rest of them. I've never even met her. Are you crazy? This guy's been over at Epstein's a bunch of times. They're buddies, not just his lawyer. Look, something doesn't pass the smell test here, folks. Not for me, anyway. Federal authorities reopened the Epstein case in January and rearrested him in July, 8 months after a Miami Herald investigative series, Perversion of Justice, raised questions about whether there was undue influence that tainted the 2006 and the 2008 state and federal criminal investigations. At the time, Epstein received an extraordinarily lenient plea deal and was released after serving 13 months in the county jail. Except he really didn't serve those 13 months. He was out on work release the whole entire time. Epstein was found dead at the Metropolitan Correctional Center in New York in August. Authorities say he committed suicide by hanging, but 2 renowned forensic pathologists have raised questions about the medical examiner's ruling and the integrity of the investigation into his death. All right, now mind you folks, this is important, and this is one of the keys of why I wanted to read this article, as well as the whole Kessler disinformation angle. Julie Brown is also talking about 2 renowned forensic pathologists who have raised questions. So don't feel like you're some kind of conspiracy theorist, okay? These are people who get paid to do this, people that do this for a living, that have questions. We have not had sufficient answers yet, and Julie K. Brown talking about it gives it even more clout and more credibility. On Monday, 2 prominent U.S. senators called upon the Justice Department's Inspector General to complete its investigation into Epstein's death. Nebraska Republican Ben Sasse and Connecticut Democrat Richard Blumenthal demanded an update on the investigation this week, pointing out that it's been 3 months since Epstein was found unconscious in his cell. All right, so we see a little bit of bipartisanship here, and that's great. The anything and anytime these morons in Congress and the Senate can reach across the aisle and get some work done, I think that's a good idea. Unless, of course, it has to do with them raising my taxes, then I don't think it's a good idea. The department's abject failure in this high-profile situation raises serious concerns about its ability to protect and secure inmates in the many cases that do not make the news. They wrote in a letter, which was also signed by 2 other Republican senators, Ted Cruz of Florida and Marsha Blackburn of Tennessee. Since Epstein's death, dozens of other Epstein accusers have publicly come forward alleging they were abused as girls or young women at his homes in New Mexico, New York, the U.S. Virgin Islands, Florida, and at other locations abroad. Kessler surfaced several months ago claiming to a number of lawyers that he had access to Epstein's computer servers and he had collected a trove of video files showing footage of powerful men, including Dershowitz, having sexual encounters with what appears to be girls or young women. He provided still photographs culled from those alleged videos to several people, including the Times, but some of them were blurry and no one was able to authenticate them. All right, so he's provided some sort of photos. Right? They're blurry. No one's been able to authenticate them. But I think I'd like a little more information on that. I'd like the journalist who wrote the story from the Times to elaborate a little bit more on those pictures. And do they have copies of those pictures? If so, can we see them? The Times eventually concluded that Kessler and his photos were a fraud, but its subsequent story nevertheless detailed through interviews with Kessler, as well as emails and texts, how another one of Robert's attorneys, Stanley Pottinger, suggested that he and Boies could use the images to obtain financial settlements from some of the other powerful men Kessler claimed he had explicit footage of. And you see, this is where it gets to the point of them being bad for the case. These guys are so greedy that they don't care about the victims in this case. They just want the dough, and Boies just wants to get some revenge on Dershowitz. Pottinger and Boies purportedly pledged to place all of the settlements into a victims' compensation fund, but the lawyers soon began to question Kessler's credibility, and then Kessler, in turn, began having doubts about the attorney's motives. Kessler then met with the Times privately, allegedly in an effort to expose the powerful men involved in Epstein's operation. Wow. All right, so See what's going on here? You're telling me these aren't weird? This isn't a weird occurrence? This guy just shows up out of the blue, and then all of a sudden Dershowitz uses him as a defense? Kind of odd, isn't it, folks? In the midst of the meeting with the lawyers and the Times, Kessler also placed a phone call to Dershowitz, which the professor says he recorded. Dershowitz asks Kessler on the recording whether he has any compromising video of him, and Kessler says he doesn't, despite having shown photos of a man that appears to be Dershowitz to Boies and Pottinger. The Times, in the story, questions whether Dershowitz's recording was rehearsed. Boy. Oh, boy, oh, boy. Ultimately, Kessler backed out of going forward with the Times, seemingly fabricating a number of excuses for not supplying the videos. The Times was unable to determine his real identity, and he has vanished. Dershowitz's lawyer said that the story, which appeared 2 days before Monday's hearing, confirmed the premise that Dershowitz's extortion scenario, that Boies pressured Roberts to peddle lies about Dershowitz in order to get payout from Les Wexner, the Victoria's Secret mogul, also accused by Roberts of sexual abuse. Mr. Kessler brought to the Times' attention a scheme that is a very close match to the scheme alleged here with regard to Leslie Wexner, said Dershowitz's attorney, adding later, "We will be pursuing, as I said, the entirety of the episode between Mr. Kessler and the lawyers." So, oh man, the cynic in me wants to say, boy, oh boy, look at this. This looks like a perfectly run mega group operation, huh? Doesn't it though? How much more perfect could it be? Kessler shows up, Dershowitz needs that for his defense, and bam, he has it. Reached Monday afternoon, Boies said, Mr. Dershowitz's assertions are baseless and irresponsible and an attempt to divert attention from his own conduct. It is shameful. Dershowitz responded, it's Boies who is trying to divert attention from the pattern of misconduct reflected in his interactions with Leslie Wexner and the billionaires to whom he was planning to sell videos. These highly irregular interactions will be at the center of my case and should be investigated by law enforcement. Cooper, the lawyer for Dershowitz, also revealed they intend to depose a number of other prominent individuals Roberts has accused of being involved with Epstein, which could lead to a parade of accused men. Oh boy, I love this. Now talk about eating their own. Now basically, let me break that down for you. In my opinion, what that is, that's Dershowitz saying, I have the evidence. I will light you all on fire if you think I'm going down for this. If you think I'm going down for this, you have another thing coming. I will depose each and every one of you people that has been accused by her, and you will all go down, and I'll take the pressure right off of me. I mean, it's a fantastic strategy, right? If you're looking at it from a lawyer's perspective, it's definitely a grand strategy, and it definitely fits the scope of what Dershowitz is used to doing. So I'll tell you what, I'm very interested to see the way this is going to unfold. But Preska on Monday made clear that she intends to narrow the scope of discovery in the case, limiting it to evidence that goes directly to whether Dershowitz had sex with Roberts and not delving into whether Roberts was trafficked by Epstein as part of a wider conspiracy. We are not doing all this stuff. This is not going to be a book for my dear friends, the reporters, to write on this whole matter. We need to narrow it down and get to the issues quickly, Preska said. This Preska lady she's a roadblock in the case. She's not very, she's just not a good lawyer. She's a George Bush appointee, and we all know that George Bush is the equivalent of Andrew for the Bush family. So, yeah, I really don't know. This Preska chick, I don't know. This Preska lady just doesn't do it for me. She's not a very... Just go back and look at some of her cases, some of the things she's done. She just doesn't seem like the kind of lawyer that really gets it. She should probably, retire and enjoy some of her and her rich husband's money because, oh yeah, did you forget she has a really rich husband? That shocks me, right? It's another elite investigating more elites. That's basically what this lawyer is. Robert's lawyer, Charles Cooper, who coincidentally has the same last name as Dershowitz's attorney, said that he has no intention of turning the case into a media frenzy, but that information about Dershowitz's involvement with Epstein is an important aspect of the lawsuits that goes to whether he is telling the truth. We have no intention of trying to discover into whether Mr. Dershowitz has ever had sex generally with anyone other than his wife, but it is relevant and we believe goes to the heart of Mr. Dershowitz's credibility whether he has had sex in connection with Epstein's operation, given the fact that, apart from Miss Roberts, another young woman has alleged under oath that she too had sex with Mr. Derschowitz in connection with that operation. So now that's 2 women, right? That woman, Sarah Ransom, has said in court papers that she was trafficked by Epstein to Derschowitz, which Derschowitz has also denied, saying he has never met her and pointing to fabrications she has uttered. Derschowitz was a pivotal member of the all-star legal team that helped Epstein avoid federal charges of sex trafficking in 2006 through 2008, after he was accused by as many as 3 dozen underage girls of coercing them into sex. Epstein employed recruiters to go out into the community and lure teenage girls to come to his waterfront Palm Beach estate to give Epstein massages. They said they were led to an isolated area of his home where he molested them and in some cases raped them. A 53-page federal sex trafficking indictment was drafted and then shelved, resulting in Epstein pleading guilty to minor charges in state court. The judge in the dueling defamation suits advised both sides to come up with parameters and timetable for discovery by December 16th. Wow. All right, so there you have it, folks. There you have already Derschowitz using Kessler as part of his defense and using him to muddy the waters. Just like I said, I knew that would occur. I knew that this looks like something that was set into motion by the powers that be. And like I said, no evidence for this. This is my gut feeling, and this is my opinion. This smacks of a mega group style operation. This is the sort of thing they love to do. They love to muddy the waters. They love to get people questioning, oh, what's really going on here? And what they want to do is just put enough considerable amount of doubt in everybody's mind. And then hopefully wait for it to blow over. And that's what they're doing. That's what Derschowitz is doing, and Wexner and the rest of these guys. They thought that Virginia Roberts would go away after 2015. They never thought that Epstein would get arrested again and this whole thing would blow open. These guys thought it would all blow over. All of these clowns, they all thought that they were getting away with this scot-free. But guess what? They're not, right? Certainly not on this podcast. On this podcast, what are we busy doing, folks? You know what we're doing. We're busy turning predators into the prey on a daily basis. Night in, night out, every morning, afternoon, whenever the news needs to be reported, we're on it right here on this podcast. And we're going to keep doing that day in and day out. If you would like to get in contact with me, you could do that at bobbycapucci@protonmail.com. That's BOBBYCAPUCCI@protonmail.com. And if you would like to support the show, you can click on the GoFundMe link within the description box and do it right there. But besides that, also make sure you're sharing the show with your friends, passing it on to like-minded individuals and others, anyone who's interested in true crime, right? Because that's really what this is. We're doing a live stream daily of this case as it unfolds. And this is a document of those articles, and we have all of that on record now. So whenever these morons change their story or they go back and say, oh, well, that never happened, we have it all right here. We've been through it already. We've listened to it already. So they're not going to fool us. We're not going to fall for their nonsense, and we're not going to be walked into anything blind in this case. We're going to make sure we have all of the facts that are available to us, and we're going to go from there. All right, folks, I will be back tomorrow with another morning update and a daily drop. I hope everybody had a great night. I'll talk to you tomorrow.